is Rory O'Toole.
And my name is Matt Schultz.
And this is How to Be,
the podcast where we discuss ancient wisdom, modern hacks, paperback self-help books, and pithy platitudes,
in the hopes of figuring out the best way to live this one precious and wild life.
Do you strive for success, recognition, accolades? Or are you someone who is content just to enjoy the little moments of everyday life? Join us as we discuss the philosophy of making something of yourself.
Hey, Roar.
Hey, Matt.
You were right about Chromatica.
I like hearing that, but I don't remember what I said about Chromatica.
I was like, Gaga hasn't produced anything of cultural value in years. And you were like, what about Chromatica? And I was like, snooze, didn't hear anything about it. I just let it pass, but it's a great album. Not only is it great, it's kind of Renaissance. Beyonce kind of stole Renaissance from Gaga.
Oh, interesting. What a thing to say. Beyonce, I'm not really familiar with I'm not really familiar with Chromatica. I just know culturally it meant a lot because every single person especially gay person in LA went to the Chromatica concert.
It's a very gay album. I mean, it's a synthy 80s Madonna Vogue dance hall tribute to gay society. That's exactly what Renaissance is too.
Yeah. I mean, I like Renaissance, but I never listened to Chromatica. I'll give it a listen though. Now, have you ever heard Christina Aguilera talking about Bionic and how it was ahead of its time?
No.
Christina Aguilera is pissed that Bionic didn't get the attention it deserved.
I'll give it a listen.
Now, what about Christina Aguilera? You know how every gay guy has his icon, his diva?
Yeah.
I love the Christina Aguilera gays.
My ex-boyfriend Omer.
He's a Christina gay?
Not only that, but like a few months ago, he literally posted on Twitter in Hebrew, whenever a gay man is born, God assigns him one diva that he has to defend throughout his whole life and stand for her. And now, I think he might be right, but for some of us get an easy job. Like, if karmically, Beyonce, it's an easy job.
Beyonce,
okay.
You saved some kittens from a fire, so God gave you Beyonce.
Yeah, it's like no one's gunning for Beyonce, so it's not. I don't have to defend her. But poor Omer,
all he has to talk about
on the front lines.
The only thing he can say is her vocals. Her very early 2000 vocals, those runs that she could do. No one's denying it. But that's all she has going for her.
Circa that VMA performance, The Kiss.
Oh, sure. I
remember saying to my little friends, little Alfred, little G1, that everyone was making a huge mistake putting all this attention on Britney. Christina is the future.
Whoa. Can you believe how wrong you were? Have you ever been so wrong?
I'm sure I've been more wrong.
Really?
Yeah. What if I die and go to Mormon hell, Then my Christina prediction won't be looking so wrong.
I guess it's all relative. I guess you can't decide until the end of your life is what you're saying. Now the worst diva.
Can I say something about that? Just a little.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, there's an Israeli poet, and I was reading his poem, and he said, when I was a child, they drained the hula swamp and made it into a field. And when I was an adult, they realized it was a mistake and they filled it back up. And he said, perhaps my whole life is within like the frame, imagine living your whole life in a conceptual mistake. I mean, we all do, but it's sort of an interesting thought, isn't it?
It is a conceptual mistake of liking Christina Aguilera.
Yeah, and like not just liking her, it's fine, it's a preference, but thinking these people are fools. Britney will fall by the wayside.
You're still waiting for it to happen. Yeah, what if you
town?
What if you had never reversed course? Like, what if you couldn't admit you were wrong? You're like, no, it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it'll just wait. And like maybe it will, like maybe it'll be like, the Great Gatsby was panned by critics, and then it was like distributed to the military because it was a nice pocket-sized book, and that's when it became really popular during like World War One. So maybe,
World War
during oh, okay, thank you. Oh yeah, the 20s came after World War One. After World War One, 20s, World War Two. Okay. So maybe during like World War Z.
Everyone will get a copy of Bionic.
Everyone will get a copy of Bionic.
And they'll finally be ready for it.
And little kids in the year like 5000 will be like, do you know this wasn't even a hit when it came out? They thought it was a snooze.
They weren't ready for it.
They weren't ready. Little kids with tentacles, because they're like...
That's my favorite thing, though, about like what you could say about an album that didn't hit. Didn't get it. They didn't get it. They didn't get it. That's what I say about this podcast.
Yeah. We'll have our
Y'all
time.
just don't get it.
Listen, the ones who get it, get it. The ones who listen, get it. I finally had my meeting with the pet psychic, with Rob Goutreau, pet psychic to the stars.
I can't believe it's been so long since you made the appointment.
He books out really far in advance, which is also like, it wasn't even an appointment. He does it through email.
So he got around to your email.
He got around to my email. But it was quite interesting. For $20, I recommend it. It brought me a little spiritual comfort. But for those of you who don't know, for those of you who haven't been using surveillance technology to spy on my life for the past 12 years, Doris was my cat. I adopted her in Brooklyn. I moved with her to Israel. The move was traumatic. She didn't like it. It was too much change. She started peeing all over the place in what I interpreted to be an act of hatred against me. And then she fell off the balcony. Dare I say, leapt. It was all very mysterious. It all left me feeling incredibly guilty and sad. It was very hard. So that was what I wanted to ask Rob Goutreau about. That's what I was looking for answers about, the peeing and the jumping. And he said the first thing I got from Doris is the urge to urinate.
Dun dun dun.
And that she was frustrated because he even kind of knew that it was like I was interpreting it as an act of hatred. Because he was like, no, she wasn't angry. She was angry at herself, at her body, because her body was failing. Her kidneys weren't working right.
Okay, so he's saying that actually it was like a physical problem, not an emotional problem.
Yeah, he said she was having some kidney trouble and it was frustrating her. And making everything frustrating. It did put her in a bad mood.
Oh, as we all would be if we were chronically ill.
And she told me I don't have to be sorry.
Oh.
And he said that there's a 200-year-old, well, she's not 200 years, like she's from 200 years ago, a Bavarian woman.
Okay.
Which
a Bavarian woman, what?
With Doris. He sort of, apron, rolling pin, a bread making woman.
Oh, sure. Flour on the forearms.
Yeah. This type. And, do I know who that is? No. Was he, my name is kind of German sounding, Schultz. So maybe he was going off that. But we also flew to Israel through Berlin. We had a layover in Berlin. Could she have picked up a spirit guide there?
Oh, can you do that? Pick up spirit guides here and there?
Yeah, like a Bavarian woman was like, this cat.
Here we go. Thank God. The reason indeed that you went through Berlin was the spirit guide made you so she could ride Doris's tail all the way to Israel and to the great beyond.
And we sat next to a German woman on the plane who had a daughter named Doris. And when I told Rob Gutro that, he said, "Oh, that was no coincidence. Spirit arranged that."
Spirit arranged that. Couldn't Spirit do something a little better, like arrange a woman named Doris, not just the mother of a woman named Doris? But maybe it was like you are the guardian of Doris and the mother was the guardian of Doris.
See, now you're thinking like a pet psychic.
We'll make this work. Don't you worry.
But yeah, so do I recommend it? For the price is right.
That's the thing. If you don't charge too much, people
comfort.
Yeah, if you don't charge too much, people will keep coming back. Keep the price right.
I was carrying a lot of guilt about Doris, and it did, in a strange way, bring me some comfort. And the thing he said about the pee was uncanny. So we're gonna call it a good experience,
a good success. Yeah, I'm gonna sign up. How do I sign up? Will you tell me?
Yeah, I have a little digital business card that I'll forward to you.
Okay,
with
great.
The instructions of what to do.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, should we get on with it?
Let's go on. I have a little document here, but I didn't share it with you. And I think you have one, but you didn't share it with me.
Yeah, actually, why don't you say what we're talking about today so that I know? Because I only have a vague idea.
Yeah, today's topic is a little vague, but I have a lot to say about it. It's should you try to make something of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Or, and I think explaining the alternative really helps understand the thrust of the question. Should you focus on the just having good days?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, sort of like a life of accomplishments versus a life of little moments.
Yeah, a life of little moments, or perhaps even a life of good routines, or just sort of a life that's not measured by accomplishment. We measure lives by accomplishment. So I think that's something we need to talk about is what are the other ways that you can measure life? Because we all know what it means to measure life by accomplishment.
Well, what do you think we as a society mean by accomplishments? Like, let's start there.
Okay. I think it's money, it's fame, and it's recognition. So Paris Hilton had money and fame, but she didn't really have recognition. No one was like, "You're doing really good work." Beyonce has money, fame, and recognition.
Right.
Breaking those Grammys records.
But the thing is that I actually think there's more to that, more accomplishments on like a smaller level, because most people actually aren't searching for fame and recognition. Like most people consider a life of accomplishments for them, like being successful in their job, like continuing to be promoted, increasing
recognition.
Oh, okay. But then I also think that like a lot of people consider like having a family a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, like that's important to a lot of people that they have like a spouse and children.
Hitting those milestones.
Yeah, hitting those milestones. I mean, I think that's a really big one for people. Owning a home. Having those Christmas cards where you wear all the same pajamas.
That's true. But I don't think that I want to categorize that as the life of accomplishments, even though you can certainly relate to it that way. I
consider it accomplishments for sure. Because I think when someone who wants it doesn't have it, they could feel like they failed.
Yes, but okay, it is an accomplishment, but it's not making something of yourself. I'm talking about the public sphere outside of the home.
I guess, but I guess, but at the same time, it's like from the outside, people would be like, oh, well, they have a nice family.
Yes. But I think what I want to talk about in this episode.
Okay, but what about what I want to talk about in this episode?
Suggest another episode. What I'm talking about is trying to not live a very ordinary life.
Uh-huh. I still think, but okay.
No, everyone gets married and has kids. It's a very ordinary life.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the people who want to not live a very ordinary life, who want to be great somehow, who want to make it.
Oh, that's not what I thought.
No?
That's not what I prepared for, but okay.
Listen, we can take it in some other directions. I think it'll get confusing if we add family life to it, because family life is so daily that, of course, you can relate to it as an accomplishment, but you can also relate to baking a pie as an accomplishment if you take a picture of it after you make it and post it online. But I don't think we're talking about pie making.
Okay, I was talking kind of about pie making, I guess. So
okay,
why
don't you explain what you thought this episode was about?
It was about seeing your life as like as like things that you need to get done, and then doing those things, and then like having a burst of self-esteem from them, versus sort of taking the idea of like can you take away the idea of like goal fulfillment away from your life and still be happy?
Okay, maybe there's some common ground here for us.
Okay.
I'm talking about trying to make something of yourself, to make your life a fabulous story in which you're the star, versus just living an ordinary life, being like, hi, I'm Dan.
Okay, well, why don't you launch us off with some topics?
Okay, so Daniel Kahneman, who's like a psychiatrist, psychologist, I don't know, he wrote this book called Thinking Fast and Slow. I've never read it, but I've read other books that reference it. And he talks about these two different ways that people evaluate their own happiness. I think this will map onto what you're saying. Okay. Like if you're a researcher studying happiness, there are two different ways that you can go about gauging this. You can say, Rory, how happy are you in your life? And then you'll reflect on your life, and you'll probably like think of your accomplishments, and you'll think of your family. Well, I've got my kid, whatever. Or you can give people little devices that beep throughout the day and have them mark how happy they're feeling in that moment when that device beeps. So these are two really different types of happiness. One is about like how happy you are in any given moment during a day. And one is about sort of how pleased you are with your life when you take a step back from it, so to speak, and regard it as a piece of work, I think we are much more inclined in our culture to like when we hear that question, are you happy, to think of the big picture happiness.
Yes, absolutely. And I disagree with that. I think people overestimate how happy they are when asked that question.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think that throughout people's daily lives, like most people are like grumpy and complaining all the time, I've noticed.
Yeah, a lot of grumpiness during the day. But aren't those people also like complaining about their lives when they ask about it in the big picture? Like,
no, I think a lot of them would reflect and be like, well, I have a nice job, like a good spouse, partner, whatever. Like they think of those check boxes.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty happy. Whereas like for me, when I'm like reflecting on my happiness, I'm like, okay, like the last couple weeks, days, like how have I felt during those days? I think people tend to, remember themselves as being in a good mood versus a bad mood. Whereas like I observe people in grumpy moods a lot.
Yeah, people are really grumpy. I mean, I spend a lot of my day grumpy.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of a day is unpleasant. I mean, waking up is a small tragedy that happens every day.
Yeah, but you do get to have coffee in the morning, which is the great part of the day. The best part. Morning coffee.
morning coffee is a joy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You have to
yeah.
shower, which sucks, but then you get to be clean, which is a joy. I sound like Ned Flanders right here. Mosquito bites. Sure are fun to scratch.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. What, like, yeah, okay, can you talk about your life in these two modes? Can you give us a little?
I mean, in my two modes, I think that, well, I'm always trying to say that my life is good, and you're always reminding me that it's not. So I guess you're constantly saying, so then I do question if it's good, but I think I have a great life. Like, I think I have, like, I have a job. In both sense, I have a job I like. I have a boyfriend I love. I have 2 cats I adore. And like throughout my day, I'm mostly in a good mood. I wake up, my boyfriend brings me coffee. I give him a big hug and a big kiss. And when my cats come in, I give them smooches too. And, like my life is during the day is I get to talk to you. I get to eat salads for lunch when I'm in the office. My big salad that I love.
Yeah, eating is really fun.
Eating is fun. Listening to things is fun. Walking is fun. I have a lot of joyful moments in my life, but I didn't always. Like, I used to be a real grumpy, sad sack who was always in my head. And it took a lot of work, a lot to get to a place where I'm like, enjoy actually my day, not just my life as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. What about me? You know me better than me. How am I?
I think you enjoy your day 100%, but you are grumpier, but you're working on that than me.
Yeah.
But you kind of love being grumpy because you love to tell the tale after, and it gives us a chuckle.
It does give us a chuckle. I do feel afflicted by other humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't mind just surfing through life more.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel a lot of stress about like the future of the world and Israel and just, all of that weighs a little more heavily on me than I would like it to.
Yeah.
And I think I spend a lot of my day swept up in a stream of random distracted but noisy thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to be able to quiet that a little bit.
I definitely have random distracted, noisy thoughts, but I'm also like, whatever.
Now, I'm not talking about like OCD stress thoughts,
No,
just
I know
like
what you're talking about.
the
Yeah.
TV's on and the volume is really high, but it's been on for so long that like you're not quite aware of it. It's just blaring.
Absolutely. That's the human condition, right?
Whew, yeah.
Anyway, gotten a little off topic here.
No, this is the topic. So
Is it?
Yeah, this is so okay. That's one way. The Daniel Kahneman model is one way to think of this. Now I'm going to give us another way to think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
I may have mentioned this. Well, I think what we discovered in our little back and forth there about what is this topic is that there's actually a few different ways
Mm-hmm.
to approach it. So let's go at them. Let's jump into them. The life of lines and the life of circles.
Oh, very important lens to look through, I think.
Yes. So the life for me, how I define this is the life of circles is sweeping the floor, washing the body, baking the bread. The what that Bavarian woman, her whole existence was very circle based.
And can I jump in and just say there's another, for me, circles is like, okay, like I had a good year emotionally, outward, but I'll have a bad year again. Like it's sort of like the ups and downs of life too. Like you go through sunrise, sunset in a more sort of macro level. When you look back on your life, the hard times will come, the good times will come again. This too shall pass.
Yes, versus thinking like, I was messed up, but then I found
Yes.
Then I read this book and now, this like triumphalist view of one's own life where
Mm-hmm.
and like you always tell me, like sometimes I'll call you and I'll be like, I like have not been like OCD spiraling for like 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be like, that's nice for now. And like it's really a clever response because it's very tempting to say like
It's over and done.
it's over and done. And really it's like it's never over, it's never done.
No, but you can appreciate the moments where it's down.
Yeah. And you can appreciate also in the moments when it's up that this too shall pass.
Exactly.
All right. But the life of lines is also like I'm making strides in my career. I think of it as very career.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm becoming someone. I'm fulfilling my potential.
Yeah.
Now, why I have seen this line of thought torment both myself and people I'm close to. The feeling of failure for not becoming
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
a certain type of fabulous, a certain type of famous, even
Mm-hmm.
just like a sort of a small type of fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm like, what would it be like if we did evaluate life differently and it was like, what did it mean to make it? Well, making it meant like you have a cozy chair to drink your morning coffee in. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
you've made it.
Well, I think that is, there's also the spiritual approach to making it, I guess, where you try and cultivate an inner life that is rich and fulfilling and is all about the chair and the tea and the
Mm.
light shaft, which of course you and I are drawn to. Although we have the human urge also to we haven't transcended yet. We have the human urge also to get recognition and all that stuff. And I think it's interesting because when it's like there's these two paths, this dichotomy, like when you have outward accomplishments that can be solace sort of for the inner turmoil you're experiencing, like okay, like I'm not so good mentally, like my mind is a little fucked up. I have anxiety, but at least I was still able to keep this job, do well at this job. I was able to get married. I have kids. So at least there's that. But like, if you don't have any of those things, those little ticky boxes, and your inner life is fucked, like that's a lot of pressure. Like,
Oh, yeah.
how do we evaluate a person like that? Like, that sucks. There's like another pressure nowadays, now that we're like all sort of maybe not nowadays. There's the pressure of like being inwardly successful too.
Like with your mental health.
Good mental health, good like spiritual health, like, and I would say good nowadays mental health connects with spirituality in a lot of ways because the mental health community has sort of adopted a lot of those terminologies and values like mindfulness and, present moment and breath work, all that stuff.
Yeah, there's been a convergence that we could either characterize as the spiritualization of mental like of psychology or like the medicalization. I actually like that better, the medicalization of spirituality, because I think
Mm-hmm.
there is definitely that's a whole can of worms right there.
Yeah,
But yeah, so we can use either one of these modes to console us when we're in the other mode.
exactly.
And I used to think back when I was more miserable, and like I just a little shout out to Lexapro. You know, really takes the edge off. But I used to think like, please, Lord, let me get a book deal because
Mm.
then I can just be miserable.
Yeah, it's a freedom. Like if you have all the accomplishments in life, you can be miserable. And if you don't have accomplishments and you're miserable, you feel really bad about yourself because like what are you
Yeah.
doing on this earth? And like I've been there too. It's like, wow, I'm really miserable. I have no notable career. Like this is hell. This is hell.
Yeah, it's like I didn't even think like, oh, if I get a book deal, I'll be happy. No,
No,
I was
no
smart enough
illusions
to
like that.
know. I was like, it will give me permission to just be miserable, and then I can just sit in my misery and rot. And and yeah, accomplishment can function that way. It can be an apology
Mm-hmm.
for a life poorly
Mm-hmm.
lived.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I think, and there are some people who would choose that accomplishments over like inner peace, let's say, or inner fulfillment. I think you and I would choose inner fulfillment, but I think it would be hard for me to give up it wouldn't be like a happy, I still want my accomplishments in life,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah,
But
I think I need some sort of balance between the
mm,
two. But okay, so I was trying to think of examples of like who are at the ends of the spectrum, like
mhm,
all accomplishment, no quality of life
mhm,
versus like all circle quality of life, the daily
mhm,
work
mhm.
and no accomplishments. So for all accomplishment and no quality of life, I mean, I wrote down Beyonce. I don't know if that's true, but it's like she works so hard. She has all these like photo shoot days, which are really miserable, I've heard.
You heard from your friend Bahati Prieslow?
Based on how miserable it is when you're called to do photos at a family wedding,
Ah,
it must. So she's so accomplished, but does she get to nap? Does she get to eat pasta? Does she get to just walk down a street? She doesn't get to walk down the street.
yeah, yeah.
No
Yeah.
street.
Now, maybe she has achieved a level of spiritual inner transcendence that she doesn't even need a street. There is no street. But let's just say, for the sake of this argument, she hasn't.
Yeah, and like it could be that she's fine with it, that she's a line person and not a circle person.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And she seems to be, she's incredibly driven. Probably a better example, because Beyonce does seem to be like very dedicated to her children. Probably a better example would be some sort of like busy businessman
Mm-hmm.
who is never at home with his family,
Mm-hmm.
but is just living for the accomplishment, the sale, ringing the bell after the sale.
Okay. Sure. I want to know who's on the circle side.
I wanted to ask you. I couldn't really. I wrote down a monk, but I don't know if that's
Yeah,
like a
monk.
Buddhist monk, but also like a stay-at-home mom.
I was so scared you were going to say stay-at-home mom.
She's
That
a
was
monk.
concerning to me. No, she's not necessarily a monk. Depends on the stay-at-home mom. I think that as a mom, you can really look at your life as linear because your kids are aging, and you're aging with them. Your responsibilities are changing. And again, I think of having children as a certain different kind of ringing the bell. Like the success of your
Mhm.
children being the success of yourself.
Yeah.
Which is why these people get so into these basketball games, these parents or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like,
Their kids are these little lines.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know who lives a circle life besides a deeply spiritual person.
Yeah, it's got to be a
They're
deep.
not in the media. That's for sure.
Yeah, a dog. Yeah, and like obviously, yeah, spiritual life is very circle focused.
So you said that you wanted a balance, like you want to like some external accomplishments in addition to this like inner circle satisfaction. Why accomplishments? Like what do accomplishments mean to you?
Okay, so first of all, so I'm a writer and I write.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have a sense of calling around
Mm-hmm.
writing,
Mm-hmm.
where it's incredibly like megalomaniacal to say, but I feel like I have something to say that must be heard.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's work that I need to do, and it feels like, yeah, it feels like that's what I'm like here to do. So who can explain such a feeling? It's just a feeling. But because I feel that way, when I publish something and it gets like good responses, or I know people are reading it, or I feel proud of it, it just like makes this something inside me feel so toasty and warm. It also makes another little something inside me start salivating for the next thing immediately. So it's not a static enjoyment. It's like that's a thing about that's sort of the nature of accomplishments, is that you always need more and more.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I do think I have modest goals as a writer. I'm not trying to be J.K. Rowling.
But at the same time, if you ever like, you would have to level up once you reached your goals, your modest goals, right?
Yeah, presumably. But I think that there's the line that I'm drawing, so the life of lines, like its incline is not very steep. It's a subtle incline. And the nature of a subtle incline is that, you die before you're Beyonce.
But what if you write Gone Girl? Won't you want to write a Gone Baby Gone after that?
Okay, so that would be like if all of a sudden I wrote something that forced my line to have a steep incline. Yes, I'm sure that would like, oh my God, it would like
so much pressure.
Rewire my brain. It would rewire my brain. And then I would be instantly like, okay, now I'm on a new plane. And I would start behaving like I'm on a new plane.
Right.
And I would, and then I'd be like, okay, I've leveled up in my career. Now what? So that's the nature of things. But I'm not trying to write Gone Girl. I'm just trying to write my little Jewish column.
Well, what about your next book, The 8 Husbands of Rocky Balboa? Rocky Balboa.
I mean, my next book, I do want it to, I do want to publish my next book, and I do want it to be read by more people than my first book. So like, yes, I'm not denying that I have an incline.
Sure. No, of course not. But I'm saying like everyone's incline is a little relative to like the success they've had previously.
Yes.
Now, this is the thing is like, one thing I think of, well, okay, first of all, I want to say that I think if you decide, no, I'm not even going to care about success in the classic sense of like job, notoriety, any of these external things. I'm just going to focus on my like inner path, let's say. There must still be the desire to have that line increase, especially at first, right? You're like, okay, like I really suck at meditation right now, but I'm going to get better at meditation. And is that so different?
Listen, I know people who are not on an incline. Okay, so
do you have to be on an incline though?
No, I'm saying like, I know people who are, okay, this person I know who I hate, but I'm going to use him as an example. It's one of my enemies, my many enemies. He has like sort of a boring job. He really likes taking care of plants in his apartment. He's a plant keeper. He enjoys cooking. He enjoys, that's pretty much it. And he and his
Does he enjoy
partner have an
singing
open
loudly
relationship, so they occasionally go out and bring home a hot trick. Now, this person is not spiritual, okay? I've seen inside his brain, nothing there. Nothing interesting. He reads like, a book every once in a while, like,
okay, so no intellectual aspirations.
No intellectual aspirations. Just, I'm telling you,
aspirationless.
Aspirationless. He just likes taking care of plants. He likes cooking.
Is he happier than us?
No.
Because, like, what are we getting at here? Like, are we getting at the happiness path? What makes us the most happy? What makes us the most satisfied? Is he more satisfied than us?
No, actually, I in an ironic way, the happiest people I know are the people who are on the climb. Also, some of the saddest people I know are on the climb. The climb is treacherous
The climb
and joyful, but like it brings newness into life. It brings joy. You know, my mom also always starting a new class or like finding, you know, it brings this flow of newness into life and a sense of joy. And so I think the static life can be a little deceptive.
Okay. I think that actually all that matters is like your relationship to accomplishments versus your relationship to just being a plant keeper, cooker. You know, you have to have like a good perspective on it, right?
Yeah, like what would be like a good relationship to accomplishments?
You're like, you have a objectivity about them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think that when you do something well, maybe you're more satisfied. You're satisfied that it was received well, let's say for you. Like you wrote this book, it was received well, but you don't start thinking that without this book, your life would be, you're trash.
You don't pin your human value.
Yeah, but there is something about accomplishment, success that is a self-esteem builder. Is that intrinsic to human nature?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it is. Think of a baby.
Yeah.
Putting the little triangle through the triangle slot. Mommy, I did it. You know, we like having done it.
Yeah,
we like trying to do something
and then doing it. Yeah. And then the people who, for whatever reason in their life, are not, you know, I think that there are studies that show that people who are like, have a lot of fortitude, very steadfast, willing to stick with failures and persevere are like more satisfied with their lives than people who are more inclined to giving up.
Yeah, and I mean that makes perfect sense.
Yes, but should we get to a place, can we get to a place where you're like, I don't need accomplishments, even spiritual ones, to feel like I don't even need to feel good about myself. I just need to, like, that's not even important to me, feeling good about myself. I guess that's like a very high level of transcendence.
Yeah, I get like, and it's one that I increasingly doubt the existence of.
Yeah.
Like so much of like what we take for granted in spiritual talk, that like you should kill your ego, for instance, is at odds with what we know from like psychological research, which is that like you need to form a healthy ego to like exist and navigate in this world. So like what are we actually talking about when we talk about like killing the ego in a spiritual sense? It's like I think what we're really talking about is just having a healthy relationship to it. And not having like a sick, anxious, hateful, self-hateful ego. So, and then when we have a healthy ego, we're like, I defeated my ego. But I think that's just like what, you know, what a good sense of self is. It's like, okay, you have a strong core. An accomplishment might make you feel good, but ultimately it's just a little thing on top of your strong core. You know who you are. A setback might make you feel bad. It's about a strong core, as at the gym, so in life.
So agreed.
All about core strength.
You got to do your core workout. Yeah, I wonder if you could get to a place of like transcending your ego without having a good ego. I feel like you have to cultivate that stage first.
Oh yeah, you cannot. Well, they even have a term for that: spiritual bypass. Have you heard that one?
Oh no.
Spiritual bypass is a term that is known in circles of people who call themselves spiritual but not religious. It's in books about spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And it means using spirituality to bypass self-hatred, anxiety, depression. You're looking for some sort of escape hatch to the difficulties of the human condition.
Mm.
And you have this very acquisitive outlook
So
towards
it's
spiritual
not a
practice.
good thing.
No.
Oh, okay. You have to feel your feelings. The only way out is through, as they say.
I think the only way out is through, and I think the other only way out is to recognize that there's no way out.
Well, yeah, ain't that the truth? That's like with your TV mind, your loud TV mind. You just have to say, yeah, I have a loud TV mind.
Yeah, I think I can quiet it a little bit with digital minimalism, but it's still going to be a TV.
Yeah. The
And
greatest TV there ever was.
yeah, you know what? It's a fine TV. It works. It flashes images. It reminds me of things I need to do.
Does it? I feel like yours needs a tune up on that.
No,
I'm
I
just
I do the things I need to do. I just don't get to the places I need to be or know where I need to be. I'm not a calendar queen. In fact, yeah, I'm like dreading seeing Yoav later because I have to like straighten out some calendar things with him where I like
Mm.
told him I'm busy on this day, but actually I'm busy. I
Well, he
messed
thinks
up.
it's cute. Matt's new boyfriend thinks it's cute when he's confused.
Deeply thought that today was Tuesday. Deeply.
When did you realize? Like, or did you constantly have to remind yourself 6 times an
I'm
hour?
all through the day. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
my bones. It's Tuesday. So what can
What
I
is
do about
that feeling? Like, is there a scientific term for it? Like deja vu, like feeling a Friday when it's a Thursday?
Yeah, like dayphoria.
Dayphoria. Yeah, like, and sometimes it happens to a mass of people. You go into the office. Doesn't it feel like Thursday? It's only
Yeah.
Wednesday. And everyone will agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's annoying when someone doesn't agree. I thought this week went by slow. It's like either get on my page or shut up, you know? It's only interesting if you agree.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's like,
otherwise you
yeah, we
just
all have a different opinion of what the subjective experience of time was. That's what we would expect. We don't need you to share yours also. But yeah, if it's spookily aligned, then
here we
we can have a
go.
conversation.
Here's the thing about a life of accomplishments. I think that we have agreed that there's some sort of intrinsic nature, but what those accomplishments are is interesting. Like, because we're all just playing make believe. And we can just
Yeah.
make our own rules if everyone would just get on board. But are the cards laid this way? Are the accomplishments what they are because they have to be?
What do you mean? Can you draw it out a little more?
Yeah, like, okay, is being successful because we created work, I guess being successful involves, having a successful career. We can say that as like our foundation. But what if we never created, but it didn't used to be that way, actually. It was not working made you successful.
No, it was what kind of family you came from, what
Yeah.
your lineage was, what your sort of standing. Now, in a certain way, it was the same. It was where you stood in the social hierarchy.
Right.
And we now have different ways of getting to the top and to the bottom. But it's still a hierarchy. And it's interesting, Mark, because yeah, it wasn't accomplishment. It was just you just landed there.
Yeah, you just landed there. It mattered a lot more where you're just born into.
And people felt really proud of that, as if they felt like, they felt good about themselves, even though they didn't do anything to deserve it.
Yeah, like a person who never worked, like, where's their idea of accomplishment? Like, I guess a Victorian woman or a Georgian woman, let's say, was like, I'm a great needle pointer. I run this household. I tell the maids what to do really well. Ordered a great dinner tonight from them. Like,
Yeah.
And a gentleman back then was like, I got great horses. Look at this horse I bought. What a nice horse.
Yeah, I bought nice horses. When I was like smoking pipes with the men, I made an excellent point about the war. I'll repeat that to the missus later. No, I won't go into details. She doesn't understand such matters, of course. But I'll tell her that I made it, that the men were impressed.
Impressed, exactly. Yeah, so almost feel like we're on the precipice of like a new, but maybe this is just what everyone thinks. Maybe every generation thinks they're on a precipice of change. But I feel like we are getting away from these, like, certainly from work success being the most important, being as important as it is now.
There are many having a blue check mark next to your name in the past before Elon Musk changed it. That was like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like having followers.
Oof, that was that. I hope that was a blip in time. I think it was. I think it will be. Your face.
So.
No?
Wishful thinking.
Oh. But yeah, having like work-life balance is becoming increasingly desirable.
Well, it's desirable for sure, but is it?
Well, I almost do feel like if you have things outside of work that aren't just like like what I said I do after work, like, or maybe even what I said I do after work, like if you have things outside of work that occupy your time that aren't just mindless scrolling, I feel like that's becoming increasingly high status.
Yeah, like that girl trend also.
Yes. But and
like
then also
this
the anti that girl trend.
workout.
I don't know. We move too fast in this world. Things move too fast. We don't have a monoculture, as I was talking about with Sam the other day.
Yeah, it's very hard to like discuss culture when it's so
fluid, disjointed,
and variant.
Yeah. Ugh.
Roy, like I kind of want to ask you, like, what's your ideal life of lines and your ideal life of circles?
Well, they overlap, I guess. I think the true answer is there's kind of both. Although if you look at the full circle of your life, you kind of revert back to your baby status when you're elderly, as the 7 stages of man astutely points out. I would say my ideal life of lines is I don't know. Keep I would like to make more money. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I want to have a family, like children. I would like to have a better place to live. But my life of circles is like what I'm doing now, like working on my having nice relationships with people in my life, having nice relationship with myself, and having the really small, I guess they're daily accomplishments of like making sure I take my walk and like do yoga and like read my books, do this podcast with you.
Yeah. What about this podcast? Is it line or is it circle? That's $1 million question.
That is the $1 million. You tell me, audience.
Yeah. Are we trying to make something of ourselves? I guess so. We want recognition. We want our friends to tell us, nice podcast.
Yeah. I would love I would love our listener in Chile to share with other listeners in Chile. So we have a big contingent in South America.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Modest recognition is what I think my life of lines like yours, I guess.
Yeah. Everything within reason.
What about you?
So I dream of the life of circles. I wish sometimes I could just wake up, go to the market and buy ingredients for the evening and cook dinner while watching YouTube videos. And you know
who lives the life of circles?
Who?
Little old Italian ladies.
Yeah,
that's the life I want. Why? They've got it figured out.
Yeah, they do. They're living. Yeah, just cooking with the TV, that little TV on the counter that's black and white.
But maybe they feel depressed. A lot of people in later stages of life feel depressed. So let's not idealize it too much.
Yeah, there's no way out of the human condition. But at the same time as I desire that, I wish I could be writing and sending off that work. But like, yeah, I think if I could control the balance, I would like to spend more of my day on circle time than online time.
Yeah.
And there are people for whom that's not the case. But as we've said, there's overlap. You know, I'm thinking of like Simone Biles. It's like that's a very line life. But like, who knows? Maybe like getting up and going to the gym that's her circle, baby.
Well, is writing a circle or a line for you?
That's what I'm thinking of. It's like sometimes it feels really circly. Sometimes it feels like playing the piano on a rainy afternoon.
Yeah.
Whereas sitting in bed reading a book feels really line to me because I'm very goal oriented with books.
I see. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm reading a book right now that I took out from the library on my Kindle, which I just started doing, and it's due very soon, and I have to finish it. And I'm really not enjoying the experience because it's so line oriented.
What book?
Orlando by Virginia Woolf.
My favorite.
Oh, really?
Definitely top 10 books for me.
Really?
You didn't know that?
You recommended it to me before, but I didn't know it was top 10.
Yeah, I've read it like 5 times.
No.
Yeah.
I've never read a book 5 times.
I've read a very small amount of books 5 times.
Well, it's very well written.
Yeah, this gorgeous just journey through time and these little sensuous moments.
That's exactly what the book is like.
Yeah, it's
and
beautiful.
I have 60 pages to go.
Now, if I were to read that again, it would be very circle because I've read it before 5 times, so there's no rereading is the ultimate circle.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, so in conclusion, I agree with you, Matt, that it's about finding your specific balance. But let me tell you, once you get all your accomplishments and they lead and you have checked all the boxes, it can feel a little lonely. So you better have some circles in your life that you enjoy to give you some comfort.
That is true. Amen, Mr. Sister.
A little empty, not lonely. So I say I lean circle time. I lean life of the quiet moments. If I could cultivate that more in myself, I would be happy.
Yeah, and I say circle and line, but keep your line at a gradual incline. That your step not exceed your gait.
But then we wouldn't have Beyonce.
Listen, the Beyoncés of the world know who they are. They'll
get there.
They'll get there. Yeah.
All right, Matt. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, my dear.
That's a circle right there.
Oh, yeah.
Our phone relationship.
A Life of Circles with Rory O'Toole. That's a book, all right, about our journey through time together.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.